I get the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll
mode. Happy Tuesday. Hi, Rodney. How are you?
Doing great, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. You don't look a day older for us missing a week.
That it's unbelievable. I amaze myself sometimes
It's
how little I age in a week.
it's uh it's really amazing. Look at us. We've got a new thing, got a system. Ronnie and I use this software and they're constantly updating. And so whenever there's technical snafus, it's me because they're like changing buttons and all kinds of stuff constantly. And I love it. It's what's exciting. So let me see. We had a 4th of July, nothing.
hmm
It was good. Did you golf?
I did. We played some golf. I'm 50. I'll be 55 in September,
Huh.
so I didn't watch a single firework.
Okay.
Um, you know,
You
just I like the grill out, the hangout, the hamburger hot dog tradition. I'm kind of like an old school like that. I like that stuff.
I do too. I'm at the age now I just complain about stop shooting off that stuff at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
It's so there's been so we've got a couple of things coming up. Well, we've got one thing coming up this week and another thing coming up this month. This week they're going to come out with inflation numbers, and I don't think that that's today. I don't think that's today, but that's this week. And then on the 25th, put that on your calendar, Rodney. Jerome Powell's going
The
to
Fed
say
meeting.
the FOMC,
Yeah.
July 25th. So we're all laying bets here. Of course, I'm not going to bet today until we hear those inflation numbers because that's what matters to him.
I
So,
like it. Not everybody on the internet actually waits to make their wager or their comment before numbers come out. So kudos to you, sir.
well, I'm running the table so far, and I'd like to keep that going. I mean, I'm pretty sure you owe me 50 cents.
I I think I do.
I think it's up to a half a buck. So, I mean,
And as
20
long
or
as I
30
don't
more
pay you,
times, I could get half a cup of coffee or something.
as long as I don't pay you, you'll never go broke. Think about that.
Yeah, you'll always owe me something, right? Yeah. Ugh. So, um, we're
We're
going to
going to
talk
talk
about
about
rates and
rates.
about, yeah. Should we just rip the Band-Aid off and kind of go right into that?
Let's do it.
Here comes the drop of the beat. Okay. I got a feeling this is not going to be a fun thing.
Look at
Okay.
this. It is. Look, we've actually got some green over here. The last few days, we're seeing some improvement. But I want to point out, Andy, I think right here on June 21st, can you see that?
I can
Is
see that.
where I predicted that rates are going to get better. And look, bam,
No
straight
kidding. Did you
down the
really?
chart. Well, I've been saying that I think 7% was about our max because every time we hit it, we seem to bounce off of it pretty good. Uh,
Right.
but this one's taken a minute to bounce off of. This is several days here, but it's finally looks like we're finally starting to get above these red lines, which are 25-day moving average. You can see up here. So these things provide a little bit of a floor of support once you break through it, but they're also a ceiling of resistance until you break through it, if that makes sense. So
Right.
I'm hoping we broke through it once. You see these little top of the candlestick there. It means it got there at one point in time during today. So we're
Right.
hoping to see the trend continue with this 19 basis points getting better.
Right.
And well, Andy, I mean everybody's kind of the consensus I've been getting is just that jobs report was so good that it immediately affected a lot of the different parts of the economy, including these rates. So,
Right.
but I think we're hopefully get through that and start seeing some improvement.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're gonna. Uh, um, full disclosure then, then I'm glad you're so happy about that. But the truth of the matter is that's coming up to 7.09 from 7.14. Am I right?
The 7.09, you talking about the rate?
I'm talking about this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's what else do you do? It's like we've been bottoming out on this thing and faced it looks like they have thrown everything under the sun at the real estate industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tight inventory, crazy mortgage rates or high mortgage rates. Just competitive offers. It's time after time, and it's just something else they're going to stack on that's just a challenge for us and the buyer. So you just deal with it and best you can.
You deal with it and you move on. And the only reason I bring that up was not to be just a troublemaker, but the fact is, for anybody that watches the numbers, which you can watch mortgage rates that may have very little to do with your numbers when you talk to a lender, because I don't even know how they do. Is it an average? When they profess these rates, is that just like an average number that they throw out there?
This is actually the mortgage-backed security coupon at 5.5%.
But my point is, if I wanted to get a loan versus somebody else, we would qualify differently in terms of the end.
$1,000,000%. Yes. You're going to fall into the bucket, whatever matrix they put you in, that with your credit score, loan to value, debt to income, right. You're going to fall in your own bucket. Kind of like, you ever seen that game, where you drop that thing down and it goes, and then it like a checker and then it goes in a spot.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, you just plug it
Pachinko,
in there.
Baby. Pachinko.
Pachinko. There you go. It's the rate pachinko game.
And you never know till the last 3 pins, and then bam. I didn't get the lottery this time. Well, the reason I mention that is that, and we'll get off the rates because rates are not everything. They're not everything. No. But these days, it is a headline. I mean, it hit 7.14, and again, we talked about the different buckets and stuff and how they average that. I don't know. Don't care. But 7.14 today, right this moment, at least, according to what I'm looking at, Mortgage Daily News is 7.09. So what Ronnie's talking about is there's an improvement. And that's what keeps happening. And I think your point is whenever we get 7 seems a little bit hot, and then it just tends to pull back down, right? That's all you're saying.
Yeah. It's happened multiple times now. Yes.
Okay. So then let's, if we can, it's interesting that we would be talking about that. And I've got a story here before we close up shop here today that I was able to help a buyer purchase a home and help that same buyer seller sell a home within 1 day last week. And so we're going to talk about headlines, there's a crash coming, low inventory, there's no houses for sale versus reality. So before we get out of here, we'll talk a couple of stories about that. And this is real world stuff, no names, nothing like that. You'd never be able to identify them, but I'm telling you that it happened. So I just like those true stories are always cool. So the first, did you have any thoughts on it? Did I interrupt?
No. I'm looking forward to the story.
Yeah. The real estate. So the first thing I'd like to be able to chat about was there's a real estate expert, and it's going to be Lawrence Yun, says mortgage rates won't go back to 3% in my lifetime, and here's why. And he gives a whole bunch of reasons. Lawrence Yun is, if I'm not mistaken, he's the economist, the guy that crunches the numbers for Realtor.com. Pretty sure that's who it is. And I think, did he change to Keeping Current Matters? No, that was George. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
he's the
here's
chief
what
economist of the NAR.
NAR, what did I say? Realtor.com? Yeah.
Or
Yes, NAR.
Realtor Association is what you said. I don't.
Yeah, no, you're correct. NAR. It's Daniel Hale for Realtor.com. So um, anyway, so if you're a home buyer waiting for a return to super low mortgage rates, don't hold your breath. The short, and what he goes through here is the short-lived era of 3% is over and unlikely to return anytime soon, perhaps for decades, that's kind of a strong statement. That is. And this, yeah, Larry, Lawrence Yoon, NAR. But you can never truly predict the future. And we're going to, before we get done today, we're going to have 3 or 4 different entities with their predictions. And that's what that's what makes headlines every stinking day.
Yeah.
And in the end, we're going to talk about Morningstar and their predictions. It's kind of blew me away when I saw this. But you can never really predict the future. But I don't see mortgage rates return 3% the remainder of my lifetime, he says. And here's what we looked at. Here's what he showed this is what the 30-year fixed rate looks like since 1975. Now you can see the June 15, 6.7, which is probably true. Today we know that's just not the case. But the average fixed rate of 3% or less was an anomaly related to the pandemic, lasting from July 2022. And we'll go through the whole history. But historically low mortgage rates during a pandemic were an exceptional measure during exceptional uncertain times. And that's why, in my opinion, opinions and people's thoughts on this thing are all over the map, is because the precursor, the cause of all this stuff was an extraordinary event. Would you agree with that?
I would. I actually do agree with that. Yes. We were already almost at an unprecedented time before the pandemic hit, as far as mortgages go and low rates and things like that. We were already at like an all-time low. Right. So when the pandemic hit, that just, our rates were, I guess, kind of artificially kept down, right?
Right. Well, remember, everybody was locked down and everybody's worried about money, and the economy started to collapse. So when you drop interest rates close to zero, borrowing and lending and all that kind of stuff gets freed up, and all of a sudden money's flowing like crazy. Like the case in 2008, the Fed slashed interest rates nearly to zero, creating emergency lending programs, and bought government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, otherwise known as quantitative easing, which, boy, you get a lot of theories on whether that's good or bad or indifferent, but that's the tool. That's the tool they used.
They did it. Yeah.
And it says mortgage rates are closely linked to Fed's benchmark interest rates, can be driven further down by quantitative easing. The interest on mortgage subsequently hit rock bottom at 2.67.
Wow.
The Crimea River, that was a good one. And then Congress passed trillions of dollars in COVID relief. Stimulus money helped increase the national debt, and I didn't know this. Stimulus spending, which helped increase the U.S. national debt by roughly 30% between 20 and 22. 30% national debt. Jeez Louise.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. However, unlike 2008, the economy recovered quickly and rising inflation soon became a problem. So it's no wonder that he's had to jack those rates, and we'll see what he does later on this month. But all that being said, now this is just, and I'm not an economic scholar, but I do watch this stuff. It matters to me. And you tell me what you think about this, Rodney. We have to understand, I have to understand that the FOMC and Jerome Powell and his board of 12 are dealing with something that they've never dealt with before. And they're trying to manage a crisis having no template for it. And it seems to me, overall, they're doing a pretty good job. Is that rose-colored glasses?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. You're allowed to have your opinion on that, and it can be anything you want. Um, I don't ever think that they allow enough time for their changes to take in effect. I think time. I think time does. It's obvious that they can set the course. They set the course for for the rates to be at 3%, right?
Right.
When they quantitative easing, that means they was buying them. They were buying them at a low rate. So that's basically they were setting that, right? And now they've raised the rates and they've set that, right? So they can do what they want with the economy. I mean, they've shown that. So yes, but what are they trying to quell now? I know they're trying to quell inflation, but the rates are at such a point. It's like now it's almost a detriment to every single person in the United States.
Yeah.
The car loans are higher, the banks charging more. Everything is more. So, but that to be said, the whole article is like I don't ever see it get back there either, unless you do the same exact thing is at the rock bottom. If you go back to that chart, at the rock bottom of that chart, you have a worldwide pandemic, So when rates are at an all-time low in the 2020s, right, you have a pandemic. So to drive that. And I'm like, if you do that again, sure, you might see rates at 3%. But if another disaster happens and we're at 5%, it's probably only going to get to 4% or something. So
Right. The yeah. So we're gonna use this, and it's going to be an interesting. I'm going to bring this up. It says where mortgage rates are headed on that particular article. That's the very bottom. And we've talked about this before, where they've interviewed lots of entities. I don't know what other name to give them: companies, entities, people with opinions that are good. They're smart people. But they have their opinions are all over the map. And my running joke is the NAR and Realtor.com tends to be pretty rosy. It's going to be okay, because we're in the home selling business, And
right.
Anyway, so the punchline on this particular article, and we'll move on, is where is mortgage rates headed? The NAR National Association of Realtors, their forecast an average of 6% by the end of 23. Wouldn't that be? This is July. It's 7:09 today. That's a lot of dropping That's a lot of dropping.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm. First of all, they could, right? I mean,
yeah,
anything can happen. Like the guy said, let's just first state that at the beginning of the show, I actually pointed out where I was dead wrong for the last 30 days. So let's keep that in mind when we're discussing forecast. But NAR, right, forecast by 6%. That's been out there for a long time, but I think everybody's been pushing it back. And I think like Fannie Mae and NRA are, well, here's mortgage bankers too. They're saying that as well, but I think several of my forecasts I tend to watch thinking it might be the first quarter of 24.
Right. So they're thinking 6% by 23, 5.6 for 2024. That's, what does that mean? It was within 12 months. I don't know what that's
I think this is saying, and they're all pretty close there, except NBA's predicting it go down to 5 there. But I think there's going to be a lot of people coming off the shelf. Let's say at 6%, 5.75, 5.5, 5.25, especially at 5 and on down, because people will, like in our area, if they've got a $700,000 mortgage at 3.5%, they don't want to trade right now for 7.
Right.
So,
but you show me a 5 or a 5.5 or 5.5, and you have a reasonable reason to go, you're in.
They're gone. they're going to take that. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, I believe, it's not that when it's double, it's just a lot. Right. So
Yeah, it's a mental barrier as much as anything. Um, you were dead. You weren't dead wrong about anything.
well, I'm just saying, I wasn't thinking the rate. I'm thinking the rates are going to trend up a little bit. Now we're going to hit several bumps that go negative, but we went negative there for a week or two. Right after I predicted. Because I was talking. As soon as we get any good news, I thought we was going to be on a slowly uphill climb, but it's always a step ladder. It's never up. It's never just a easy line.
And then so we go to the home price index, and this is by Black Knight. Black Knight is a huge data mining company. They're really, really substantial. And what they're indicating here is that the home price index hits a new record high. Now you would think that with inventory being so low that prices would go up, but with there's no buyers out there that prices come down. Those two forces right there are
right.
How you kid? As a professional, and I'm looking at these numbers every day, it doesn't make sense. I'm telling you, because we've got those two things going on. We've got people that won't want to sell because of the mortgage rates, right? And so they're sitting tight. And then we've got people that's low inventory, which means low supply usually means the prices are high. That's the way that goes. And then you got people that they want to buy but can't. So there's nobody out there pushing the price up. So you just doesn't make any sense. But in the end, in this crazy market, I'm sorry to use that term, that's overused to death. But the home price index is up, and it's up 5 months. Prices on homes are up, seasonally adjusted, by 0.7. That's not a lot, though. That's good.
Right. Very incremental, but we're lucky it's not more, in my opinion, honestly, with the factors. And I'll say this: as long as we still have sellers out there, and we do, that are putting their house in good shape, in good conditions, they are still selling fast and over market price. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it's at. First of all, if it's listed appropriately, what I'm saying, if it's listed fairly, appropriately, and it's a nice house, it's gone. I mean, it's presented well, it's gone. It's gone fast.
I think I know what house you're talking about.
Which one? Which one?
Yeah, that's going to be the story. That's going to be the story I'm going to tell at the end of this thing. It's absolutely true. It says here that, and again, Black Knight, these guys are not to be trifled with, and I don't mean that in any other way than I respect the conclusions they come to. And as we keep, and it's interesting, as the headlines will purport, and we talk about those headlines every week, everything changes on a daily basis, just on a daily basis. But you have to keep track somehow, and this is how we do it. So so the house prices are going up, right? 5th consecutive month of gains, but little. It's none of that 20% stuff. It says the gains come at an expense of homeowner affordability.
Everything's at the expense of homeowner affordability right now. It
has
been for years. I mean, since.
Well, I mean, look at this. For 30-year rates at 6.67, this goes back a little bit, but the principal and interest PI payment needed to buy a median priced home in this country, it's like $350, $378, something like that. It's $2,258. $2,258. I'm going to be honest. I'm glad I'm not in the market these days. I'm not.
I don't know if it was on one of these articles, but I also seen how the rents were at an all-time high now.
Yeah.
And so, I think it was maybe in Tennessee or around this area is right at $2,000 average.
for an apartment. And I bet you for some of those, there's like studio apartments. These are not big,
Right.
it's 800 square feet and you can see the person in the kitchen from the
Yeah.
living room. I did read an article that there's been so much, there was a knee-jerk reaction to build more units here in the Nashville area that rents are starting to stall out because there's a lot of availability apparently, but it's stalling out. What you're telling me is at a really high level.
Yeah, it must be because that was I was like $2,000 for their, I was like, whew. So it's, at least, that's comparable to buying that, to me, if this is a fairly high affordability city, or however it's called, an expensive city to live in, 2,000 a month for rent on a who knows what size of apartment. But if you can buy the nation average home for a similar payment, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I like that. Yeah, so
Well,
if you're affording your rent, you can go out and afford a house like that.
that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it says there's no doubt the housing market has reignited from a home price perspective. And the reason that that's an important, at least I think it's an important idea, is because the battle that I tend to have to fight from an informational standpoint is you can't swing a dead cat online without somebody talking about housing crashes. And that puts everybody in this wait and see mode, like I'd love to buy, but I'm going to wait till the market crashes so I can get a better deal. The reason we're bringing these things up is nobody seems to be saying that.
Right.
There's no crashing going on. It's moderate, at worst, it's moderate.
I heard it today from a top executive I was having lunch with that my area was going to level out in prices. That was a comment. And I'm like, it's already leveled, but we're not leveling out anymore. It's just, it is what it is. It's still going up. There's too much competition. And, I'm like, it's not leveling. It's just not growing. It's just not going up really fast.
Yeah. So the final thoughts on this particular, because again, I really respect this Black Knight guys, these guys. Active listings have deteriorated in 95% of major markets. What is there? 150 major markets. I don't know how many there are. It's not as many as you might think, but 95% of them, the listings have deteriorated. It's still down more than 50% from pre-pandemic levels. Remember, we're gauging everything on pre-pandemic. New construction starts and completions were both strong in May, which is welcome news. However, most projects underway in the month were 5+ multifamily units as opposed to single families. And I suspect there's probably just more money in that for the guys building it. That's my guess. Single family residents made up just 40% of the total and is now at construction levels still approximately 30% below the 2005 peak. Imagine that, 30% below 2005. As it stands, housing affordability remains dangerously close to the 37-year lows reached last year, despite the Federal Reserve's attempts to cool the market. Jeez Louise. We got stuff going on.
Yes, it's but look at that builder confidence from 2 months ago or 3 months ago. That has skyrocketed.
Yes.
We're entering that this phase now where builders are only 30 something days into a really, really kind of where they're feeling good about what they're doing. So I bet over the next 30, 60, 90 days that we're going to continue to see that trend. And it's not the end all for, like, it's not going to save us. What's got to save us is just the people willing to sell and buy in that same community. So we're going to have to get to that, a level where it's drawing those folks off the shelf, right? Me included. I'd say I have pent up demand to move, but I have nowhere to go and, nothing to choose from. And I don't want to give up a good rate. So
Yeah. But I'm telling you, we've been through this before, meaning back in 08 to 2011, it was tough. That was a slog, man, back in the day.
mhm.
But then it's like they say, feast or famine. Because I remember in real estate, it's it's such a slow moving thing. It's like trying to turn a ship like a cruise liner. That's a lot of mass to turn, and you can be
Right.
making efforts, and it's like, why aren't they turning? It just seems to take forever.
Yeah.
But in offices, if you go to real estate offices back in the day, when 2008 through 2011, the way it would go is you'd hear somebody in the back going, "Is anybody else dying?" I mean, is like nobody's getting showings and stuff, and then you'd hear this chorus say, "Yeah, well, me too," because we're all trying to. Are we experiencing the same thing?
Right.
We're just as humans. And then as the market started to change, and then they said, "Has anybody else got too many buyers to handle?" It's like, yeah, I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
And that's how the news comes around for us.
Yeah.
It's you can't look at a chart. Charts are history, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's our business in a nutshell. It's it's a lot. It's a lot market driven. It's I don't think you can hardly ever be not market driven. It's real estate is, some people have to have the need, and some people are just have regular demand, want to move family and stuff, and is not so needy, and they can wait on a better price for it. So, or better rate, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Philip had a good question here, and I'm not quite sure how to answer this. Just curious, are the Nashville area new build numbers the same? Because we have tear downs then rebuilds, which is basically a race one, build one. That's like a net sum zero total, I guess, would be. There is a lot of that going on.
Yeah, from what I've heard, the issue with the tear downs is a lot of not every bank is lending money right now on construction. So if you're not a big builder and doing track and have a bunch of relationships, then you may be having problems getting bank money for those things. And then plus the new construction, in say Davidson County is going to be way down, just because everybody, it's tend to going out of our major city, right? The building is going around our city versus like the Nashville numbers. I wouldn't look at Nashville numbers. Like, for me to see how we're doing, I would like to have a whole MSA number on builders numbers to really get a feel about how their starts around us. Because Nashville's going to be limited, wouldn't you think? I mean, just because it's a fairly dense city now.
I think so. But if all I can, I'm not a builder, so I don't know what, I have to think that construction loans are more expensive. I have to think,
Yeah, because of the rates. Exactly.
With that. But if part of the being able to figure out what's going on is being able to see the response of the builders. And what I mean by that is this. I must be on a mailing list or something, because there's a one builder who I really like, and they're called, I guess I can use their name because it's not a bad thing. It's Partners in Building, and it's a pretty cool company. They're based out of, I believe, Texas, but they've got they're here in Nashville as well, and they do a beautiful looking product, and a lot of them. And I think that the way they work is there's a number of different contractors within this Partners in Building company. So it's not just one guy. I think it's a number of different contractors. And I'm telling you, they've got some drop dead beautiful stuff. But for the past few months, I've been getting flyers, the incentives that these builders, and it's not just them, but the incentives that these guys are offering are amazing. Meaning, I will give you a $25,000 back patio, live outdoors thing, including the TV and the fireplace, and geez Louise. If they're having to work that hard to get to sell houses, that means that there's not a line at the door.
No, exactly. Yeah, and for the new constructions that haven't been selling, they've been trying to do a lot of that stuff versus trying to reduce the sales price.
Yeah.
But I see some new construction, but I don't. It's not. It's like it's not very much of it, and it's typically gone pretty fast.
Yeah.
You
So,
know.
so what we were looking at was the confidence was by Fannie Mae, and that was actually a home purchase sentiment index by Fannie Mae, and they measure the same way that Case Shiller does, which is they only count single family dwellings that have sold before, and that's the way they measure it. And what they said, the June reading for Fannie Mae HPI home sentiment index, home price sentiment index, was a scant 4.4 uptick to 66%, with a full index only up by 1.2 from a year ago. However, there's a slight level of optimism among consumers because they're just trying to take everybody's temperature, at least compared to 1 month earlier. Within the index, the majority of Americans polled by Fannie Mae, that's interesting that I've never gotten a survey like that, believed now is a bad time to buy a home, 78%, down from 80% last month. They're calling that an improvement. And the majority also felt home prices will go up in the next 12 months, 36%, down from last month's 39%. And mortgage rates will also climb 47%, down from 50. So the optimism is up, but boy, if that doesn't repeat what we've been saying, it's all moderate.
Hold on a second. Go tell me that again. I thought they were on the wrong. I thought we were on the wrong side of this. Like I thought, the people think it's a terrible time to buy.
But here's what they're saying. Here's their. I'm going to call it a spin. I don't know. I don't know if that's unfair.
Their spin, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, is that what it is?
Their article? Yeah, their article saying yeah.
Their article. Okay. Slight level of optimism among consumers. That's their premise. Slight level of optimism, and then the way they sliced it is the index a while ago. The majority of Americans polled by Fannie Mae believed now is a bad time to buy a home. 78% down. It's now today 78% versus last month it was 80%. Gotcha. So 2% less feel like it's a bad time to buy. That's their point.
Gotcha. So,
and then the next 12 months, and now it's 36%. From last month it was 39%. So there's 3% improvement of the next 12 months that prices will go up.
Well,
does that make sense?
That's a negative. They're saying I'm taking that as a negative for a buyer. Like they're saying the price is going to go up.
36% now are saying the price.
39 said before.
But 39% said before was before. So it's a 3% improvement on that price going up. Now, if the margin of error is 4%, we're anyway. So, and mortgage rates will also climb 47% now, down from 50%. We'll call it last month. And so that's their whole thing. The slight level of optimism among consumers. I would have to fight for that, but
the numbers have improved. But if I had to categorize those numbers, I would put them right in the terrible bucket. If 78% of the people think it's a bad time to buy, if 36% of the people think that the rates are going to go up, or 36, whatever those numbers, and then the 40-something people thinking the price value is going to go up, I mean, that's why we are in this market right now.
I wonder how much somebody paid to have this guy write this article. That's pretty cynical, isn't it? Sorry.
That's funny.
Can you find something positive in there? Oh yeah.
It's improved. Yeah, I get it. Hey, a slight optimism. That's I like it.
If that's the
It was.
premise, he fulfilled the premise, But he
Yeah, but,
didn't
you know,
rinse in the margin of error. Didn't talk about that.
yeah,
Well,
but when the affordability, when the affordability's up like it is, that's a fair comment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hey, anybody's hanging on some stuff that's improving. I like it.
hey, Wyatt, how are you? Good to see your name in here. I think that you're probably right. It sounds like they just don't have anything good to say. Well, that's as
Shit,
good
all
as they
right,
can
welcome to
get.
the show. You're exactly right. We don't talk about anything good. I mean, it's
No. I think what he's talking about is that article that I was just reading.
yeah.
I think that's what it was. If not, okay, yeah. A lot of times, Rodney interprets for me because I tend to. He just does, and he does a great job. I need
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
So I want to finish up the live stream today, and again, good to see you, Wyatt. And I think that I saw Angie floating around in there. I'm going to say hi to her, and Philip and Wendy. Anyway, say hi to all the guys. But Morningstar is another company that I have to look this up so I get this exactly right. I see them sort of like they're a little bit like Black Knight. Morningstar predicts the housing market affordability, but they're just another data company. I think probably is what they do. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody is out there Googling it. So here's their bold claim that the housing market affordability, and that's what we've been talking about. Which, by the way, I'm going to back up 2 seconds. Rodney, we were talking about HUD allocating $29.5 million for Fair Housing Assistance Program. What was your comment when I mentioned that before the show?
Well, it's the Fair Housing Assistance Program, and the allocation, state and local fair enforcement agencies. So this month, $29.5 million for enforcement agencies. So it's basically they're giving money, a little bit of teeth to folks, maybe the CFPB or these other folks that have the discipline authority in our industry. So basically that money's going to go to discriminate against housing. It could be against the lender. I'm assuming it could be against anybody that's doing something egregious and trying to take advantage of the customer. And it's it says it's to fight out housing discrimination in their communities, unlawful housing discrimination. So.
But I think what caught my ear when we were talking about before the show was the $29 million in the grand scheme of things isn't a huge amount of money. Am I right about that?
Well, if you think about $29 million in the scheme of like normally when we think like, okay, HUD's going to come out and help us out and give us $400 million or $1 billion in housing assistance or something like that, right? $29.5 million isn't nothing when it's compared to actually putting people in house. But what this doing is they're just giving people money to fight back for the consumer, like federal, whoever it is. Let's say it's just the FHA, FHA. Say if it's just FHA themselves, they have some money to fight with, attorney money or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, it's just designed to give them some teeth to prevent housing discrimination.
Got it. So, and I don't mean to jump off that, but thank you for helping me understand that. So Morningstar, it's an investment firm, and that's what they run the numbers. And they're making a bold call that the housing market affordability will be restored by 2025. Now that, in my opinion, that is a big statement. In 2025, it's not that far away. I mean, geez, Louise, it's almost 2024. It's middle of July now, But the housing market affordability is on par with what buyers saw at the height of the housing bubble in 2006 when factoring in mortgage rates, home prices, and income levels. There's three levers, and we've talked about this before, Rodney, and And, I'm a little embarrassed, but I was kind of making a joke about the obvious things. The guy said, we only need 1 or 3 things to happen to make things better in the housing. And that's going to be falling mortgage rates, falling home prices, or rising incomes. Like, duh.
Right.
Okay. But you made the point that that's maybe not terribly obvious, for everybody. But there's 3 levels that can help do that. And we just mentioned that. Due to financial market volatility, mortgage rates are always the lever that can have the biggest impact. And that's why we watch these things like a hawk. That's why it's daily news. That's why I have up to the minute rates. New housing report put out by Morningstar expects mortgage rates will indeed be the primary lever that helps ease housing affordability. Because what do we just go through? 20 minutes or so of prices are changing, but are they crashing? No.
Right.
When you would expect them, frankly, to be more affected than they are. You know what I mean?
Yes.
As of Friday, the average, and I'm going to let you get in here, but this is really a pretty cool thing. As of Friday, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate tracked by Mortgage News Daily stands at 7.14. And talk about that. Morningstar expects that'll trend down in the second half of the year and will average 6.25. Now, I'm going to pause right there and let that soak in. 6.25? That's great news if that happens.
Yes. I mean, it would be, yes. I mean, so, okay, here's a 4th person we've read today that says, we're in the low 6s by end of this year. So, I mean, these are pretty good, pretty good. They know a lot more than I do. So, but I'm with you. I think it's a huge statement to say that it's affordability housing restored, because you think how many people, the price increase, you're not getting that back. It's not
Right.
coming back. Like if it went from peak to trough, or however we want to call it, if it went up, a $300,000 house is now $600,000 from 10 years ago or whatever, it's not coming back to 550. It's not coming very much, if any. And then but so now you tag in the rates, where they're just a little bit better than where they are today, or, even 2% better. The affordability is still off the charts of what it was.
Yeah.
The house increases, the prices. Now he's saying, I do like how he's compared the income level, because to me, that's the big thing, is the income level is going up with it. And that makes a huge difference.
Yep. And I want to mention what Wyatt says here. How's affordability going to increase? Well, I think it might increase, but incrementally. It's like what Rodney, what you're saying is the headline makes you think affordability is going to be restored for all people. I mean, that's what
Right.
that seems to read like.
Yeah.
That's not realistic in my humble opinion. But what Wyatt was saying here was, and what I won't go into too much detail, and again, it's just my opinion, going to flood us with foreclosures or something. The foreclosures are just not in the mix. It's not. It's a good question to think that that would have to happen, but foreclosures is just not going to be in the mix. There's way too much equity in the houses these days. Very few on the foreclosures. Anyway.
Yeah, the rates, he's right on target. The rates are going to be the biggest factor, but the second factor is that I think he's mentioning it or saying is maybe over these last 2 years that the market's been a little bit slower, that some of the income has caught up while prices have leveled.
Yeah. And it says we're almost to the punchline. It just was such a really good article, I thought. The Fed has engineered a massive increase in interest rates in order to combat high inflation. And we all know that's true. We expected to cut the federal funds rate aggressively in the coming years. That's a long term. Driving the federal funds rate down from 5% currently to 2% in 2025. Wouldn't that be awesome? Once the Fed wins, and we've been saying this for months, once the Fed wins the battle against inflation, because that is their singular goal, and I know, Rodney, you said that, and I agree with you, they would make a rate change and they wouldn't let it work long enough. They kept jacking it up. But I'm telling you, they're acting like people that are hell-bent on beating inflation, period, at all costs. And that includes jobs, housing, all of it.
That's, because of that 1974 thing that they did when Jimmy Carter was in office, that everybody's not going to make that same mistake. They even term it like, what's that movie where that guy he was a bowler and they called it a Munson or something? You got Munson, so it's even got a name, it's like, don't make that same mistake, and they call it something. I forget what it is, but.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to get labeled with it is the bottom, what you're saying.
Yeah, right. So, nobody wants to say, well, you drug it out like the guy that you didn't learn nothing from 1974 or whatever.
Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Yeah, Munson.
Once the Fed, I'm going to send him a strongly worded letter anyway. Once the Fed wins the battle against inflation, his priority will shift to jumpstarting the economic growth, which will require much lower interest rates in our view. Jesus, we got to be careful with that. I mean, golly, regardless of what happens, and we're almost done, regardless of what happens in the next few years, we expect interest rates to ultimately settle back down at the low levels that prevailed before the pandemic. I don't know that they mean 3%. That low interest rate regime will resume once the dust settles from pandemic economic volatility. Our long-term interest rate projections are driven by secular trades as opposed to religious. I got to look that up. Factors such as aging demographics, slowing productivity growth, and increasing inequality have acted to push down real interest rates for decades. These forces haven't gone away. Then we've got economists over at Morningstar expect the other two levers to help out rising incomes. That's what you're talking about, Rodney, and falling home prices, which I don't know that's technically, I suppose they will, but was significantly, I don't think so. But this is where here we go. We're going to get to end the show on a revised home price forecast now projects new and existing home prices to decline 6% and 4% over 22 and 24 respectively. Well, we're in 23, this is just a couple of days ago. Good, so we're current. So that didn't happen. They call their prediction mild correction, adding a steeper decline in home prices would be prevented by the fact that inventory of existing home for sale remains below pre-pandemic levels. So far, so good. Here we go. Among forecasters, Morningstar is on the low side when it comes to mortgage rates. Heading forward, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and this is compared to what we talked about 30 minutes ago, MBA, Fannie Mae expect to average 30-year fixed rates to end 2023 at 4.9 and 5.6 respectively. That's quite a spread. Moody's Analytic expects mortgage rates to drift down to 6 by 24, 5.5 by the end of 25. On the price front, Morningstar is on the bearish side. Firms like Zillow and CoreLogic think national house prices will rise 5% and 4%, respectively, over the next 12 months. Moody's thinks the bottom is in and expects price to a peak to trough decline of around 8% for national house prices. When it comes to the last sentence, when it comes to mortgage rate and home price forecast, it might be the best to take them with a grain of salt.
I like that. Yes, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because they had me going both directions right there for a minute. So I like it. Compete is like dueling banjos, and then they say take it with a grain of salt.
It's like you're getting ready to go all in. About. Oh, wait. You mean it doesn't matter? Well, yeah, kind of.
You know,
Others,
I like the aggressive attitude there. I think they think they're gonna. I like it. I'll take it.
we were speculating. This is from Philip, our good buddy, um, Philip Wayne, Wyatt. I'm sorry about that, Wyatt. I can read it. There we go. Sorry, Wyatt, Philip. Before you go, we're speculating that another increase this month would cut the summer buying market down early. We haven't had a buyer's market yet compared to what we're used to.
Yeah, that's first and foremost. Thank you, Andy. That's yes, but yeah. I mean, it's not going to help. I don't think there's any.
Do you disagree?
Way
Do you disagree with me on that?
that we haven't had a buyer's market, a normal market?
A normal market in the beginning,
Sure. Yeah,
like
I mean,
normally the spring season is Katie bar the door.
right. No, it's no. You know, it's if you look at our numbers in this area, it's they're way down. So no, I'm in jest like you is like, yeah, is it going to hurt the buying season? Well, yeah, the buying season's already almost dead, but it's not dead, but you know, it's a lot slower than we're normally used to, you know.
Yeah,
So,
and it's just this is just our new normal. And you know what, Philip? There was an article, and I was reading in this, and I managed to lose it. But here's the gist of it. We're talking with these experts. What does that mean? They're people with opinions that publish those opinions. Some are right, some are wrong. It's okay. But what they're talking about relative to the selling season, that kind of stuff, is that because things aren't roller coastering too much, even the rates, it went over 7, so big deal. It went under 7, like to 6.5, 7 a couple of weeks ago. You know, I think, wasn't it? I think, you know, but in the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty small gyration. People are getting used to the way things are. This new normal is close to 7. The prices on the homes are the prices. Nobody's sitting and waiting for a crash, which would indicate I'm going to get a $500,000 house for $400,000. Nobody's waiting on that. People are settling into the new normal. And so if they raise the rates again, maybe a little, but in general, I think that people are just they're doing the Timex thing. They're taking a licking and keeping on ticking, you know?
yeah, I mean, they're just making sure, you know, when they make the move, it's going to be right for them, you know?
Yeah. So here's the story, trying to think how to package this. Well, we had a buyer seller, and she wanted to buy a house that was easy to negotiate. The seller was ready to go. And we made that happen within just a few hours. And then she had a home to sell. And what have we been preaching? What have Rodney and I been preaching? Sounds a little bit strong, but amen. We've been preaching, if you want to sell a house, if it's in move-in condition and it's priced correctly, you'll, number one, sell the house. Number two, you'll get the price that you want. And in this particular example, complete transparency, we and a professional friend of mine thought that the number was 600 for this particular house. The seller thought it was a little more because of special circumstances. We started high at a little over 600. It was 6.25. And son of a gun, within a day, we ended up under contract well over that 600, not the 625. But she beat us. We were wrong, and she was right. The reason I mention that is there are people that want real estate and they're willing to pay for it. And so she was right. We made the right call to allow that to go forward that way. So there's plenty of people getting ready to buy, getting ready to move, all of it. It's all good.
Nice. That's a great story. How long did it take from time I guess the contract for list theirs to they were already in?
They were under contract in less than 1 day.
Wow.
They were under contract in less than 1 day.
And so that was on both properties, the contract for them to sell and buy?
Yeah, we bought the house within a day, the one that the seller wanted before we listed her house, which was Are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so each transaction was taken care of within a day
That's
of
amazing.
start to finish. But
Well,
that's just
congratulations. Well, it's when somebody trusts you right there is when, they go and put like that. They take your advice and you work with them. And that's a great story.
it was a good thing. But I think the point is that if somebody's ready to move, they'll sell. If somebody's ready to buy, they'll buy. And it just maybe, I think the term I used before was the recreational moving from place to place is a little bit lower than it used to be. Let's get a new house because I'm bored with this one. That's not happening so much anymore. No. Any final thoughts there, Rodney, my friend?
No, great show. Glad to see you after a couple of weeks layoff. Glad to see our friends that joined the show today.
Yeah, Philip, Wendy, Angie, Wyatt, good to see y'all. Listen, and we will yeah, those two, yeah. Dual contract scenarios happened about 2 weeks ago as well. See that? People are buying and selling. All right, so where's my deal? This is our outro. Rodney, we'll see you. Bye, everybody.